Greetings and welcome to another Diablo 4 build video. Today I want to show you the Barrage rogue that I've been toying around with, inspired by my Barrage rogue from previous seasons. I want to see what can be done. I'm actually a fan of Inner Sight, but I opted to go the preparation route because I also am a fan of Shadow Clone, which is pretty neat in this setup and is always up. So let's go over the skill tree first. We got 2 points in any of these basics because we're not using them. Then we got all the points in Barrage with Advanced Barrage, giving us more critical strike chance. We got Target Practice, Sturdy, and Siphoning Strikes because we're also going to be close to the enemy, making use of close quarters combat, but more to that in a second. Then we have Shadow Step with Methodical Shadow Step as well, getting some sweet damage reduction right here. Dash with Methodical Dash, and of course all these kind of mandatory necessary passives, which I kind of hate a little bit, because Unstable Elixirs means you always have to use potions every 10 seconds. I don't like that design space, but it is what it is, and 30x damage is just insanely good. So there's trick attacks and then Ballesta for some more damage after we evade. Not sure how good this is yet. I do evade quite often, so I just got it. Then we got Agile, increasing our dodge chance after using a cooldown. We're using cooldowns pretty often, so this is quite nice. And then Evasive, gaining a little bit of damage reduction. We could opt around and change around a little bit of things here if you want. If you want to reduce cooldown and concealment, for example, you can remove this stuff depending on how sturdy you are already and how tanky. Then I already talked about, briefly mentioned it, concealment. We got enhanced and then countering concealment, giving us another 10% dodge chance as well as movement speed. You don't really need subverting because we are having vulnerability always on the enemy, almost always, with few other means. Then smoke grenades, pretty great, giving us a 25x multiplier as well, and then reducing the cooldown when we hit an elite or boss monster, and of course exploit and malice. Going over here, we only have Frigid Finesse, we're not using any imbuements, and then as the ultimate is Shadow Clone, we also put all the points here, more into Onto Dawn, one into Aftermath, and then Second Wind for a sweet barrier, and then Innovation giving us energy back. Already mentioned it, we have Close Quarters Combat giving us a sweet 30x attack speed overall, and then overall damage increase when when these bonuses are active. So the way we apply these bonuses is we're using Shadow Step or Dash, and then we're using Barrage, of course, in very, very close manner to the enemy, so close quarters combat is always up. Moving on to the gear, we had the Call of the Nameless. It's very poorly rolled, it's not even ancestral, and yeah, to preface this, I actually have mostly, maybe not mostly, but I have a lot of non-ancestral gear, especially in the ring and amulet up department, which means my resistances are kind of poor. I do have almost maxed out resistances, but getting some ancestral pieces here is huge, and I just see I need to put in that skull here. So Call of the Nameless, overall just very, very good, unique, because as I already mentioned, Unstable Elixirs is just so good. But if you can, you would like to get Air of Perdition. I have it here, but I didn't want to put in all like the mythic gear and then see, yeah, this is so strong. So without mythic gear, you can go with, for example, Call of the Nameless. But if you have Air of Perdition, this has all the nice juicy affixes that we want, or mostly want. Harlequin's Crest would be in a similar vein, but this 60x% damage cannot be denied. Then for the body armor, I'm going with Soul Brand. I just picked something for now. Ideally, you would use a good legendary piece with max life, maybe even armor on it, and then roll the Umbrous aspect and put some points into Dark Shroud. But I like to have also a barrier when I'm using potion. I mentioned before we are using potions for unstable elixirs anyways, and then we also get a barrier which gives us only 30% damage reduction. So this might even be, I dare to say, stronger than the Umbrous aspect, but it is actually, I think, underutilized, and it even comes with a GA roll on damage reduction while healthy. But it doesn't provide us with a lot of damage, and that's where Shroud of False Death comes in. The +1 to all passive is really the moneymaker here, giving us huge damage boosts across the board, as well as a huge buff to all stats, and then plus damage on next attack after entering stealth, which we do quite often with concealment. So ideally use concealment and then Shadow Clone to boost the damage of your Shadow Clone, for example. So if you have this mythic, then you can swap out Soulbrand. Moving on, and then you will see how poorly my affixes are rolled on my gear. I mean, this thing, I mean, yeah, concussive strikes make sense. We are dazing with our smoke grenade, we are dazing through lucky hit, so we get more damage. And we also want more lucky hit, more dexterity. Ideally want +2 barrage skills right here. I could try to roll it on the roll of the max life. I should do that if I have enough resources, but I'm always sitting at a low amount of gold, so next step would be to do that. And then we want some lucky hit to freeze, and of course we temper damage to close enemies because it scales with our close quarters combat. Then we got Tybalt's. Tybalt's is very nice. Ideally the unique effect is rolled higher, but here we got the Unstoppable, we got the primary resource. It really fits well into the build because we get Unstoppable from Concealment, we get Unstoppable from Shadow Clone, and we get Unstoppable from Shadow Step. So Unstoppable is always somewhat present, which makes this very nice and gives us a constant damage increase and also damage reduction while Unstoppable. Then we got Jan's Blessing just to fill out our need for resistance to all resistance right now. I actually want to use something else. Let's have it in a stash. I want to use the Flicker Step, for example, to get more ultimate damage. We need that, which we'll see in a second because of the Paragon board, but right now I haven't fixed my resistances yet, so I'm using Jens for the moment. The unique effect is, yeah, it's present. It's not really doing that much for us, so again, this is just temporary. Then I move Wind Force right here. I really love the +2 Barrage, the +2 Malice, the knockdown, the double damage for Barrage, chance, and the movement speed. This was the go-to previously for close quarters combat because close quarters combat was scaling with damage to crowd control enemies. Now Wind Force doesn't scale in that way because it still has damage to crowd control enemies, but we are scaling with damage to close, which is kind of a pity. But it still is a nice little buff to our damage. I'm still exploring if a GA Ancestral bow with a huge damage to close would be better, for example. But the +2 Barrage here cannot be denied. Moving on to the Amulet, we get conceded here because we always have a barrier up, not only due to Soulbrand, but also due to, how's it called? Second Wind, right? We're using a lot of energy anyways, and then we get a barrier for our max life. So this is pretty neat, and yeah, Amulet gives you the best benefit if you don't have a bow to put a legendary power on. And then yeah, you want something dexterity, unstable elixir, maybe movement speed on it. Here of course temper damage to close enemies, and then the second temper could also be movement speed, or as I did, some resource management. Not sure if I really need that, but I got it for now. As for the rings, I like accelerating, giving us more attack speed if we crit with core crits. That's also always up. And then again, looking at attack speed, looking at dexterity, looking at damage to close enemies, and maybe vulnerable damage as well. Then branching volleys makes sense for Barrage. I actually don't have the other Barrage. It's like weird, right? I don't have. There's like a second. Ah, I now got it. Ah, okay. I recently got it. So let me do this. We remove accelerating because now we have the high velocity aspect, which gives Barrage itself attack speed, and now Barrage pierces. So there you go. I actually only recently found it, which, yeah, was kind of struggle to find this exact aspect. Anyways, this is the second Barrage aspect, and then you can see again damage to close enemies, and a pretty poor affix on this ring. I need dexterity, I need attack speed, but this is very poor, and actually I haven't found anything better. Can you believe it? But to be fair, I only played like 6 hours on this character, so it was boosted to 60, and then I started playing it and building it. Then I got the dagger here. Dagger gives you damage to close enemies, so that's what you want. You want the damage to close enemies temper, and you want to temper, of course, chance for barrage projectiles to cast twice together with the wind force if it is masterworked. Both, ideally with I think 1 crit on masterwork, you get 100% on it. So that's kind of neat. And you can also see, yeah, in terms of masterworking, there's nothing really masterworked here except for the wind force and the amber crooks. And then I got retribution here. 30x more damage to stun or knock down enemies, just pretty neat. Wind Force knocks down a lot, and then also we are stunning a lot with our potion, for example, or lucky chance. Where is it? I thought I had a chance to stun on something here. Anyways, the Amber Crooks, our last piece of the puzzle, just pretty good because innovation really helps us sustain, and we are using subterfuge skills quite often. Here the unique roll is of course pretty low at 3 seconds, but since we are casting smoke grenade and concealment pretty often, it actually works out still. So this is very complementary to our build. For Mercenaries, I got right here, just giving me a little bit of resistance boost, and as well as if he casts his Bastion, I get like some kind of damage multiplier. I have to look in further, and then depending if I need always or armor, I would change it up a little bit. And then we got Vajana, as most do, with Earthbreaker coupled to Shadow Step. You can couple it to something else if you want. It's just a nice little bonus to have a little bit of knockdown as well. Alright, moving on to Paragon boards. Firstly, we have Chip, because we are mostly doing, or we only, I think, doing physical damage, so that's where this comes on. And you will see my Paragon glyphs are pretty low level, like 24 around, so there's still really room for improvement and room for sealing. Then we got Turf, which makes sense, damage to close enemies. I recommend leveling this up first to legendary power and getting it on the board with as much strength as possible, so we can boost up our damage with the close quarters key passive. Then I got no witness, and here you can see I only have the 12x bonus so far. That's why I want the other boots after I fix my resistances, and then I can get the max bonus right here, which is pretty nice. But we're using is always up, like our ultimate skill is always up. The cooldown is really low because of course of preparation, right? And then we move on here and get the tricks of the trade. And since we're always using cutthroat skill in terms of shadow step or dash, and then of course marksman skills, this is always up. Also always up. Well, and then we got devious right here, giving us more damage against enemies when we apply crowd control effects, which is very often with the wind force as well. We got Dance Macabre, which might not be a deal, but I kind of like it if you can time it right, because you can, for example, use Concealment, and if you have Shroud of Fall to Death, you get more damage on the next attack after entering steps. So you use Concealment, and you get 50x damage on your Shadow Clone if you use Shadow Clone, for example. And since we're using, wait a second, it says Subterfuge or Mobility skill quite often, because 4 out of 6 of our skills are either Subterfuge or Agility skills. This procs very often, giving us 50x more damage. Sorry, Mobility, not Agility, but it's the same thing in this case. And for Glyph, I got Fluidity. Also makes sense when I cast an Agility skill, I deal increased damage and get more energy regeneration. And lastly, I got the Cheap Shot board, giving us more damage for each nearby enemy that is crowd controlled, as well as the Headhunter Glyph, pretty standard glyph. I think I have to look if this is the right place for it, and need to check out if there's anything better, because it gives bonus to all normal nodes, which is not that huge right here, but we will see. Might replace this with something else over time, and then might do an update. Like I think there's something with marksman skills right here, or we do control maybe. Anyways, this is the build. Let's go in, and you realize I'm at Torment 2 right now, but you see my gear is pretty low, so there's lots of key pieces I still need, and I'm pretty confident this can push into Torment here, giving the right gear. With these mythics, I'm already at Torment 3, but we're not using the mythic variant right now. we're doing a tier 35 Torment 2 pit to showcase this build. As for consumables, you could use precision, you could use resourcefulness, advantage. It's really up to you. I like resource cost reduction a little bit in max resource because I'm stickler for not having any energy issues. So I'm using that now, and then some dexterity incense giving me more XP and a bit of dexterity as well. Always have some kind of elixir and incense up to give you that experience boost, as well as opal. I just don't have as many opals, so I'm not really using that much of opal.
Anything could be lurking here.
So moving in, you can use your smoke grenade first, and then your ultimate. You can also use your concealment first and your smoke grenade, because using your ultimate will reset all your other skills thanks to preparation. And then just go ham. Every now and then we use a agility skill for these multipliers, as well as close quarters combat. And then I always kind of forget to use my potion, which is very, very strong. As we saw, it's like a 30x multiplier on damage. So use your potion. It also stuns everything around you, which is just insane. Now I use the shrine, which I maybe shouldn't have done to showcase the build, but it's only a lethal shrine, so... The cool thing is that basically you can see here the Shadow Clone is like ticking, it's still active, and then before it even is done, or right at the time where it's done, I usually have it up again.
Time to do that.
So I really like having my cooldowns up as much as possible. And again, the gear is not optimal. You could easily use a Harlequin's Crest as well, just to boost up your skills, because I think it, I'm not sure, no, I don't think it boosts the ultimate, but it gives you a 20% CDR, I think it was, yeah. I haven't found a Harlequin's Crest this season yet. So the advantage of this build is it is really fast. I mean, I'm doing a kind of poorly job right now showcasing it because I'm talking and playing. This never really goes that well. But you can zoom around with dash, you can zoom around with shadow step. You have a lot of CC with the smoke grenade, for example. You have a lot of unstoppable, and you have a lot of damage reduction given to Soulbrand, given to preparation and other means of your gear, and a lot of crowd control. Did I already mention crowd control? I'm not sure. Maybe you have double the crowd control. Oh yeah, and one thing I forgot to mention, and I hope you're still with me, is the runes that we're using. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna cut maybe some little part of this in the video in the front of it. But we're using, let me kill the boss first, and then I'm gonna show you what we're using. Because I haven't even talked about how we apply vulnerable and freeze so much. So let's see, let's get some upgrade here. So for the runes, we are using Moni Se, which is Harmonic Alpha Canid. Cast a skill after moving gives me 25 of the offering, and then we summon a Spirit Wolf that attacks enemies. You could also use something else like than Moni, like for example the one that gives you offering when you use resource, for example. It procs a lot. But the Spirit Wolf, maybe a lot of people don't know, they don't just do damage, they actually do an area of effect damage that applies vulnerable, and they also have a chance to freeze pretty often. So it does crowd control, it does give vulnerable a lot. So that's why I really love the Spirit Wolves. I think they are great complementary. There might be something better overall if you have another source of vulnerable, but this is what I'm going to do for like maybe not high-end builds so far. And then we got Knock Wat. Wat is just really nice because it does the Crepify. And in this case, I got the one that gives me offering when I afflict. The crowd control isn't slow or chill. Again, we are freezing, we are knocking down, we are stunning. So this is always filling up pretty quickly. And then the Crepify is another crowd control that I think also fills up this one itself, but I'm not 100% sure of that. In any case, this was the build. I hope you liked it as much as I did. It's currently actually my favorite build, although it's not as strong as, of course, as the Spiritborn build, because it's not a Spiritborn, as we all know. But I really like to play this. It's really fun because you're really fast. You're doing a lot of damage. You're doing a lot of card control, and you can also use a lot of ultimate, which I always liked, and now it is very, very possible. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck, have fun, and goodbye.
I'm not done yet. Let's make them pay.